Here. Welcome to a midweek garden report. Most of the crew here. No
Kids
John.
table.
Kids table. I like that.
Josue, Jimmy on board. Welcome back, guys. Been a couple of weeks. And we're going to kick around some of the
How's your
dog
summer
trade
been,
topics
Bobby?
here.
How's your summer been, man? You been around?
That's such a Jimmy question.
You getting after it this summer or what, dude? I know you're in the gym. I see
Yeah,
you
I've been
posting
in the
pictures.
gym. A lot of baseball, Jimmy. I know you're not much into the season.
I will say, right when I got into I texted you guys on, I think it was July 14th, and I said, breaking news, I'm slightly interested in the Red Sox. They continued to win after that for a few more weeks.
And then they went 500.
Then like they just S the B, like right before the deadline. They did
so
nothing
ridiculous.
at the deadline, and now it's over. Just like that. It's over.
Like, just stay in the mix. Let us have something to talk about here.
Yeah.
Let us have something to watch.
But yeah, you've been doing a lot of Sox coverage. Good for you. It's you go to Fenway?
I haven't yet this year. I usually do one or two times.
You gotta get John. Get John again.
Yeah, let me know if you're going this weekend. I think I'll be there.
I think John and I are gonna do a couple of games down the stretch. Oh, Mookie's back in a few weeks. I think we'll definitely want to hit that game.
That's
Dodgers
true.
in town.
That'll be a fun one, actually. Bloom won't be around that week.
Yeah, he won't be taking interviews.
He's
on
busy.
Let's get to some Celtics stuff. Not a ton going on right now. They waived Champagny, so there's a couple of roster spots open. They're going to try to fill before camp here. Camp starts late September. Only one Celtic playing in the World Cup. A couple of guys backed out of the national team. So the injury concerns scaling down a little bit, but one guy's out because he's hurt. So we'll get to that later. First, though, Rick Grousbeck doing his summer interview with the Globe. He likes to chat every once in a while on all things Celtics. And yeah, it's a few interesting comments in there, shedding light on, why the organization.
I just lost Bobby.
He knows what he did.
Yeah, he had a couple comments there about, why they pivoted away from Smart and toward Porzingis. The confidence in Joe Mazzulla going into this year, which I think is still a topic worth debating. So what stood out most to you from this one, Jimmy, as you were reading through it today?
Well, he sounds, I give Wick credit. He seems to know, he seems to know how Celtics fans are feeling. I feel like he is a fan, and he kind of feels the same way Celtics fans feel after, a disappointing end to a season, or, understanding that, change is kind of necessary, being frustrated at certain things and the whole 9 yards. So I read that, and I wasn't blown away by anything he said, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think he has his finger on the pulse of Celtics, nation, if you will. I thought it was interesting, him explaining, I guess, the thought process after the year went and how him, Brad, and Joe all agreed that, change was needed. So they're all on the same page there, understanding that, they had success, but ultimately last 2 years came up short. And Wick saying that, it felt like 2 seasons kind of were combined into one season, the way they both ended, which I would agree with. I think a similar sense of disappointment after each one. Opportunity missed in both years. And we mentioned that in previous shows, how expectations change throughout the year. And you can say, oh, they got to the NBA finals. Oh, they got to these Eastern Conference finals. Yeah, that's true. But expectations shifted where they should have actually advanced further each time. So in that sense, bit of a disappointment. So they made change. He seems high on Porzingis. And it sounds like he had at least one conversation with Porzingis.
Porzingis in and out for the presser. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the chat quick, and then he was gone.
Right. And they all seem high on him. And I think they're just kind of hopeful that, this is the type of change that can maybe spark them into, that final level that they need to get to. And briefly mentioned Jaylen. Really didn't say a whole lot about Jaylen until the end, but again, very high remarks. And he said that
he talked about that at the presser, though. He was there and gave
that's
all his remarks on.
But, he said couldn't imagine, any two guys other than Tatum and Brown leading this team moving forward. So it seems like he's saying all the right things that puts his full support behind this roster, Brad. And the other thing he mentioned briefly was no intention of selling the team. So, that's something
That'll be, yeah. I mean, he's put the money down on
I
this
would
team
want
the
a
last
guy
couple
like
of
him.
years.
Yeah, I mean, I think he cares about the organization. He wants to win. He's made it obvious that he wants to have a championship
He's fairly
team
present too. You know, it's not like he's talking every other day, but he talks when it's important.
Right.
And he's invested. And he's in the building all the time. And
yeah, but there was nothing in there that was like circle this, highlight this, like wow, like breaking news.
he might be number one on the owner list in town right now. Honestly, the way he's spending and the way they're winning and all that.
Not might. I would say definitely. Actually, yeah, definitely.
So he said they came together. They met after the season. He talked about both sides, that if they came back, it would have been fine, but they wanted to bring in a big, and then the deal came together, and this was like a Brad Joe driven thing. So I'm still obviously torn on this, Josue, because the argument that this team needed a shakeup is one I agreed with coming out of the season, and I think we all would be sitting here if they didn't change anything, pissed. But at the same time, I obviously think Smart's a real loss. I have questions about Porzingis and the fit and all that. And I'm sort of stuck on both sides of it too, where I'm like, Smart was good for this team. He was effective. He was important. But I'm also intrigued by Porzingis. And that's the other thing you take away from Wick after talking to Joe and after talking to Brad, is that they look at Smart and say, yeah, he was great, and we can sustain this loss, and they're all really excited about Porzingis. So this is a guy that they met about, they targeted, and they circled as someone who was crucial, saying that someone else was going to swipe him up right away if we didn't.
Yeah, and I think that's a big takeaway from the interview. I mean, if you want to nitpick or dissect something that he said that may have been ring endorsement for Joe Mazzulla, I mean, I guess he said everything but this is a championship winning coach. I don't know. I mean, I don't look at it as like anything that's really surprising. I think clearly these guys knew that he needed some help, that he needed some assistant coaches, because that was the first thing they did to start the offseason, right? And they got two of the best ones in the league. So I think that alone speaks to them sort of saying, look, he wasn't in a great situation in the sense of we didn't give him any assistant coaches that were, revered or people that they thought that, okay, this is what Joe needs. But I also think that seeing how he feels about, or reading how he feels about the Kristaps Porzingis trade, like he's all in. So that's a good thing. I mean, you want them to all be on the same page. I think they truly believe that Marcus Smart was a valuable player, an asset to this team, but they're willing to trade him to maximize the starting lineup, to maximize Tatum and Brown. And to hear Wick is on the same page as that, I think it's
again, no one was like, this was a grueling decision. Like we were debating this back and forth.
Right. And I think that's why it's a good thing that Wick didn't give you any sense of that, right, throughout this interview. He was completely on board. So that's good. I mean, the organization are clearly on the same page here, and it's a risk worth taking. And I think that, like you said, Bobby, if this team were to run it back the exact same way, we wouldn't feel so great about it. So although we didn't envision this happening, right, none of us mentioned the Celtics going out to get someone like Kristaps Porzingis, it makes a lot of sense. And I think hearing Wick co-sign that is big. And also him saying that, look, I think that Joe Mazzulla is a coach that thinks about winning. He's going to do his absolute best to do that. I just think outside of, again, him saying this is a championship, I mean, this coach will win a championship. Like, what else do you want him to say in terms of a ringing endorsement?
So we'll pretend John's here, Jimmy, because if he was here, his biggest takeaway from this interview,
the pie guy.
This comment would have been.
I think that's what I'm thinking about when I'm like, wait, what's like the big, controversial quote in this? And I think that's the closest you get, right? What he said about Mazzulla.
He said, if Joe had done a poor job, I would have thought about replacing him. But he did a very good job. He took us within one game of the best record of the league, one game of being in the finals as a rookie coach. So I'm comfortable and happy to have Joe as head coach. John, of course, as we kicked around this comment in the group chat, was looking for a more ringing endorsement. Something like, I'm thrilled to have him. There's no one I'd rather have. He said, I'm comfortable and happy to have Joe as head coach, and leaves the door open, obviously, I think, going forward, that if he does a poor job, he would replace him.
I guess. I mean, we're probably grasping a little bit there. And then in the quote before that, he said, he kind of almost tossed it on Brad. He said, we're in an interesting position or situation at the beginning of last season, and Brad strongly recommended Joe for the job, and Brad feels even more strongly about him now. And then he goes, and I agree. So kind of like putting it on Brad a little bit there, that, we've all heard that Brad is a huge Joe guy. And throughout the season, we can see why in certain aspects, why he would be. And I think we can also understand throughout the season at certain points that there were some frustrating moments that I'm sure even Joe would look back on and say, yeah, I could have done a better job about that. So at the end of the day, it was his first year as head coach. It's interesting that they did feel the need to really put some really established assistant coaches around him, kind of signifying that, okay, maybe they do need some additional voices in this locker room. Maybe he does need some help as obviously one of the younger coaches in the NBA. And so I think they feel comfortable with the coaching staff as, a unit this year, more so than how last year, let's be honest. I mean, we can blame Joe because he is the head coach, but as soon as the regular season ended, half that coaching staff, they had one foot out the door to begin with to go with Ime. That was a broken staff, in my opinion, from the start. They lost guys throughout the year. They didn't replace them. And I'm sure the writing was on the wall all season long that as soon as Ime was hired somewhere, half this staff or whoever.
One guy left in the middle of the year.
Right. Of course. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's one. And then the rest left as soon as they had the chance to. So I think, they're going to be a lot more cohesive this year. And I'm hopeful that, some of those growing pains are a thing in the past. And I think that's probably where Wick's coming in.
And that's how I see that's how I see these assistant coaches, Jimmy. I don't see it as like, oh, they're going to threaten your job. I see it as guidance, guys that have been there, done that, who've been, teams that have won championships, obviously, and Charles Lee and the Milwaukee Bucks and, Sam Cassell. And, he obviously was on that 2008 championship team. He was with Doc for so many years. And I just look at it in that sense that you'll have someone to say, well, wait a minute, Joe, maybe we shouldn't do that. Oh, wait a minute, Joe, let's call a timeout.
That's
what I mean? Someone that could do that. And Joe's not going to, say, oh, no, we're not doing that. It's just another voice or a couple of voices that he didn't have last year.
It's going to come down to coaching style and really like what the Celtics, how they decide that they're going to play basketball and how they decide that they're going to try to be effective on offense, right? I mean, we know that they were very heavy on the three last year. Are they just going to simply play it back, same style, and just hope that they can, hit the shots when it really matters in the playoffs, as opposed to, when opposing teams really focus and zone in on exactly what it is that you do well and try to take that away.
Right.
What's your backup plan? Because I feel like that's where they came up short last year. They didn't have a plan B when Spoelstra took away their plan A. And we've seen it also at the end of games.
Look for the open three.
Plan A fails and you're scrambling for plan B and it ends in a turnover or a rust shot or, ultimately a loss in crunch time. They were not a good team down the stretch execution-wise. That's one of the things that Mazzulla, Tatum, and Brown specifically need to clear up and get on the same page with. They need to be more smooth, and they need to play less panicked basketball, whether it's late in games or whether it's in the playoffs. They need to stop acting like they're, the victim or they're the team being bullied. The guys that are panicking out there. They have to be the aggressor. They have to be the ones that are putting it on the opposing team. So that's really what they should be focusing on. It's more of a mindset. We know what they're capable of skill-wise, but certain parts of the game, it feels like that goes out the window. So I'm interested to see how Porzingis changes that up and what he allows them to do. I know that he's got a lot of low post moves. This is a team that doesn't have much of that. They're they're not shot chucking, but they are focusing a lot on that outside shot. We got a 10-second clip of Time Lord shooting the ball, and everybody had to run to the bathroom, I think. So I mean, I want to see a little bit more before we get too out of hand here. But Porzingis should be able to help them and hopefully make them a more dynamic offense.
Do you expect them to be much different stylistically this year? Because so much of what you heard is he's got to learn, he's got to adjust. But at the same time, Cassell, you mentioned him, Josue. It's like we're not going to try to change him. The Windhorse stuff, we kicked it around. I don't remember if you guys were here, but they're doubling down on him. Like they love what he's doing. They're all in on him. And I guess this is the first time. Again, Jimmy, I'm going here. I don't know if you want to, but Wick is saying if he did a bad job, he's not beyond replacement here. They like what he did. And I think there'll still be assessment going into this year. And I think this is something Josue and I agreed on, is that these coaches are here to supplement them, but they're also here to push them a little bit. And this does have to get off to a good start this year. They can't be lagging. They can't be disheveled. They can't be 500 for 20 games. I'm sure they'll give them some leeway, but this has got to improve. It's got to build on last year. I do think there's some expectation of that.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I just think when you look at a player like Porzingis and what he's able to do, that should change your offense dramatically. You should have other options. Yeah, he can knock down threes, but there's more to it than that, right? He's a good passer. You can get him in the block if you need to. He's a third option, which I can't remember the last time that's ever happened to him, right, in his career, where he's not like, the number one or number two. It didn't work out in Dallas with Luka, but I think this is a different dynamic here between Tatum and Brown. I think they could absolutely make this thing work. I feel like it makes sense. Wick agreed with that, and Brad obviously, but I just think the only thing that's really holding this whole thing back in terms of like, this is the absolute favorite to win the championship is one, the health. It's Porzingis going to be able to put together another season like last year or even better than what we saw last year. And two is just seeing it come together, right? I mean, Jimmy, I'm sure you can remember in the summer of 2007, like there were still skeptics. It's easy to forget now, but there were skeptics about the Pierce and the Garnett. How's that going to work? Garnett needs his touches, and how's Ray going to get his touches in, and what's Paul going to look like? And obviously, it worked out, clearly. But we have to wait. I'm not saying that this three is the same as those guys in terms of like the anticipation, but I think there's still some of that. Like we have to wait and see what this looks like on the floor.
Well, the difference, Josue, is in 2007, those players were at different stages of their careers, right? So Tatum and Brown can still get away with wanting to be the guy and wanting the ball and wanting to be option A. Porzingis too, to some extent, right? I mean, they're not on the
These guys are relatively younger.
They're not on the backside of 30.
Right. Those guys are around 30. Yeah.
Right. And it took a lot of maturity and selflessness. It took, Pierce and KG being extremely close friends to begin with, prior to them even joining. It took a lot. And then they surrounded those guys with other veteran players that were looking to win championships, some of which had experience, some of which didn't. And then they made a couple of key acquisitions throughout the season. So it honestly, Josue, you had more reason to doubt it than you had to not doubt it for them to have the level of success they had in that first year. Now it's a shame that they only got one after the way things went. They should have probably ended up with 2 or 3. That's neither here nor there. But with this Celtics team, they need to put their ego. They need to figure out a way to overcome their egos. And it's harder and harder to do in this day and age where NBA players have never been more popular, right? I mean, with social media, with marketing out there, these guys are the biggest celebrities in America when it comes to sports. And so it's kind of hard to put that aside and focus on, what it is I have to do specifically for the team, not so much me, especially when you've got guys with playing for contracts and playing to, get that next deal. You know what I mean? So it's a hard balance for some of these guys. I'm not saying it isn't, but if they truly do want to win, this roster is constructed to win a championship. And if you look around the East, why do you hate that?
Because I still look back on that and say, what was the difference, really?
Do you agree or disagree with that statement? So for those who are listening, there's a comment up on the screen that says,
I think there's a chance.
Mazzulla isn't coach if Miami sweeps. And what do you hate about it, Bobby?
He doesn't agree with it, obviously.
No,
you don't agree with it, or you do agree with it?
He doesn't.
Obviously, if they went down in a sweep, I think they would have moved on. But
I thought you didn't agree with it.
I don't think winning 3 more games should have saved. You know what I mean? Like I don't see what they gained over that stretch. They should have lost in 6, if not for the tip-in.
Mm-hmm.
And not a ton changed. Like the shooting swung in the other direction, and then they got obliterated in Game 7. So they weren't really close to coming back. I know they tied the series and got it to a Game 7, but the takeaways from that series shouldn't have changed based on them winning a couple more games. So, like I've said all along, if they believe undeniably that this guy's the next big thing, he's going to help them going forward, and he's a real asset that they can't lose, I'm all for it. But if it's, oh, they got going again, you rallied the troops at the end of the series, or we don't want to play the contract, or there's not a better option out there, or whatever kind of, I don't want to say complacent reason, or just lack of boldness reason. I don't even know how to describe it. The only reason they should have kept him is if they feel with the utmost confidence that this is the best guy for them going forward. And honestly, it's got to be in the short term, right? Because this team's window isn't massive now. You're building around 3 stars. You're going to have to make some tough decisions in a couple of years. So I don't want to hear.
You have 3 years. Your window is 3 years.
I don't want to hear this year he's learning. He's growing. We're here for the ride with him. He's getting better. Like, he's going to be an asset. Like, he's going to be the coach because he's helping this team and he's making them better.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from that, or why it's relevant, is because I don't think if there were guys on that team that didn't believe in Joe, I don't know if they make that. If they win 3 in a row. So I think that is a big part of it. You look at the way the team responded. I mean, people can say what they want if that was Joe or the players, but again, I don't think a team is able to pull that off if they didn't believe in the coach, or at least if a good chunk of that team, that roster, was like, man, this guy he doesn't have us on the right page, and I think that's good. I think that's a really good thing for Joe Mazzulla, because he is still learning. People know this isn't ideal.
I think all the excuses from last year were valid.
Right, but
those are out the window now.
I just feel like in that position, Eastern Conference Finals, when you're down 3-0, it could have been easier for guys like Marcus and Tatum and Brown to be like, man, Ime should be here. This is some bullshit or whatever. Like, it couldn't be easy.
That didn't help him either, for sure.
If there was that little bit of like, man, this isn't the right guy to guide us, I think it would have shown. You know what I mean? Where I don't think that was necessarily the case. I mean, maybe some guys felt somewhat that way, but no one felt it enough to be like, oh, this thing is over. Let's just go, 1, 2, 3 Cancun. We never got that. We never got that.
Well, that's where it looked like it was going, right? And then they did show something.
I know, right? This is go-to.
Like, the game 4 was great. We were down there, Josue. He felt really good coming out.
Yeah, but Bob, remember game 3? The second half of game 3?
Game 3, they quit.
Are these guys quitting? Like, you're going to be down 3-0 after this, right? I think that part is what scared me. I'm thinking.
And the first half of game 4 wasn't great either. They turned it up in the second half, and that third quarter was awesome, and that kind of sent them on their way. Gabe Vincent missed game 5. That was a huge deal. And then game 6, you got the tip in. So, again, I don't want to hear that was the difference. Honestly, I would feel even better if they came out and were just like, even if they got swept, he was staying, because we have that kind of confidence in him. We're not going to let one series decide this. And I'm sure that is how they feel. Like, everything I heard last year was that this is the guy. We're all in on him, and he's going to be great. And if he's the next Spoelstra or whatever it might be, I'm all for them keeping him. But if it's going to be learning and growing and this and that again this year, like, the excuses, all of them were valid. He took over a day before camp. The Ime thing was hanging over them all year, I'm sure, to some degree. And he didn't have the time or space to implement what he wanted to implement. And then what you said to start off, Jimmy, the assistant situation was just a disaster. So all those excuses were valid, but they're all out the window to start this year. So they got to start strong.
And the other thing with the Eastern Conference Finals, what was also disappointing, and you could make the case that, just as bad as getting swept, is losing that game 7 at home. I mean, how do you lose that game 7 at home after coming back down 0-3 and being the better team on paper?
Well, all the pressure on Miami, like I was saying.
Right.
Yeah, that one's so tough, because looking back on it, Tatum was hurt. Rob was throwing up.
The Tatum injury.
He should have never played Brogdon.
But see, that's where the mental toughness comes in, because Miami Heat, they sniffed that out. They're like, man, you guys are scared right now. You guys are vulnerable.
It happened early enough where they should have been able to pivot to some degree. Like, they shouldn't have ended up getting blown out. There's no doubt about that.
Right, exactly.
Like, you want to see them go down fighting. I don't want to neglect this great new offer. FanDuel football is lurking. I know they're about to play a preseason game down at Foxborough this week. And then a couple joint practices over the next few weeks. And before you know it, you'll be looking right down the road at opening day.
Zappy?
Opening week. So
who's that other quarterback making waves?
I don't know where that guy came from. I didn't even see they signed him. I can't think of his name off the top. But, yeah, they got a 4th guy in there, huh?
Montgomery or something?
Someone out of Louisville. So this is the new deal with FanDuel. It's really cool. I love this one. It's really fun. If you
Cunningham.
obviously Cunningham, yes. Is there some momentum there? You're going to see him on Thursday. I think he's starting.
Cunningham to Butte, I'm hearing, is an absolute lethal combination in camp this year. So something for Patriots fans to be excited for. Cunningham to Butte.
Yeah, maybe you can pick the Patriots. I don't know. But Bobby, go ahead. Get into that offer because this is pretty cool.
So obviously you got all the futures right now to win the Super Bowl available on fanduel.com/Boston. You are going to get bonus bets if you bet a Super Bowl winner right now every time that team wins during the year. So
wow,
you're going to be able to go along for the ride with this team. And every time they win, every time they build a little momentum toward that Super Bowl, you're getting the opportunity to, I don't know, double down on them, make some bets week to week. You know, football is one of the most fun bets, fun sports to bet on in general, but this is going to make it just a little bit more fun here. Right now, fanduel.com/Boston, bonus bets whenever your Super Bowl team wins throughout the season. Love that. Fun, creative.
That's cool.
I don't know if you want to go, Pats, the long shot.
If you like your money, you won't bet on the Patriots. But hey, if you want to make Sunday a little bit more interesting than it otherwise will be, then go for it.
They're the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media, of course, and here at the Garden Report. And, you know, eventually we'll talk Celtics, we'll talk some NBA futures, but football is what everybody's talking about right now, what everyone's looking forward to. So go ahead, bet on some preseason. Go ahead and pick your Super Bowl winner, start to think about it. And, of course, you're going to get those bonus bets whenever your team wins. Just go to fanduel.com/Boston, bet on a Super Bowl winner. You'll get those bonus bets every time they win. 21 president in mass, $10 deposit required, and first online real money wager only, of course. So head over there, check that out, show them some love, and you'll be showing us some love as well. That's fanduel.com/Boston. Again, head over there. All right, let's
I got
talk.
Pats at 7-10 at best.
Anyways, they're over under 7.5, so you'll want to go the under there.
There you go. Hammer the under.
Let's hit this quick. I know everyone's tired of the Jaylen stuff, but I've been looking forward. I think you might have texted over your reaction that day, Jimmy, when Jaylen had the press conference and signed and everything like that. But what's just your general reaction to the max contract getting?
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know it's been talked about, but this was something that the Celtics pretty much had to do. It kind of feels and felt the whole process. It almost gives me like arranged marriage vibes. It was like, yeah, we're going to get married because it makes the most sense for both of us at this time to get married.
Right. Did you see the presser though?
I saw bits and pieces of it.
I was surprised. It was a little bit more sunny, and obviously it's going to be a positive thing. But
yeah, man, it's the richest deal ever, of course.
Yeah, better be sunny.
It was
shining bright over there.
There was a lot more jubilation because, again, the last year or two here, it's been a lot of frustration and pause and just
right. Well, that's why I think that's kind of why
Jaylen.
That's kind of why I feel the way I do. I mean, I honestly wonder that if it wasn't a record-setting amount of money, if we would be having this conversation right now. So that's the vibe I get. But hey, maybe they can learn to really love each other. And what I mean by that is whether it's Jaylen to the city to Jaylen, Jaylen to the Celtics, Celtics to Jaylen, whatever. They obviously love each other enough to come to terms in this deal. I think that he's the best option that they had, and he continues to make them championship contenders. So they signed the contract. I think it almost feels like, and again, I was just reading that through that Wick interview, the very last, I'll pull up the quote so I don't screw it up here. The very last question was about the CBA. And I guess the second to last question. Nope. Sorry. Let me keep going back here. Third to last question.
Yeah, which one was it, Jimmy?
Third to last question.
Okay,
it was the NBA's new CBA agreement includes a new second apron that puts even more restrictive measures in place for the highest spending teams. What kind of directives have you given the front office about being aware of that and managing it? How has it altered the approach, if at all? Wick says, I was on the labor committee that worked on the new CBA. I've been on every labor committee since I got in the league. The league doesn't allow us to comment on the details of the CBA. But having said that, we're obviously all in with the record contract for Jaylen and with our payroll this year and in coming years. Eventually, there are basketball penalties for spending, so that will go into the thought process down the road. But at the moment, the best basketball thing we can do is what we're doing. So again, this made the most sense for the Celtics to do at this time. We all know how Jaylen's contract, Tatum's future contract, and Porzingis' contract are all going to affect this roster in a few years. And at that point, they're going to have to make some real decisions about this roster. Does that include Jaylen? Does that include Porzingis? I have no idea. I don't know, just as like you guys don't know. But it tells me that there's like a definite 2 to 3 window here with this roster construction where something would have to go terribly wrong. Player would have to demand a trade or whatever it would be for it not to be these guys. So this is their team.
Buzz about White now too, making 27 million in a couple of years on extension.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And he's certainly going to have an extended role this year. And so that's another guy to look out for. So I think they had to do it, Bobby. I think they were also happy to do it and glad to do it. But do I feel like, as a Celtics fan, do I wish that there was a little bit more, I don't know, like, do I wish I felt a little bit more love? I think so. But it makes sense for the only thing they could have done at that point. So that's where we're at with it. And a year from now, who knows? Jaylen Brown becomes a player that they can trade again. He's obviously going to still be considered one of the great talents in this league. And if there's a team out there that, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out here, then there could be suitors for him. More as opposed to just losing him or panic trading him for, at the last year of his deal and getting, 40 cents on the dollar.
I generally like the move Josue. Love no player option. What do you make of the deal and the press conference too, the reaction to it?
I thought it was great. I mean, good for Jaylen. I do think that it's a little weird for a couple of reasons. One being that he's not the best player on the Celtics, right? He's not. Some people will argue if he's top 20, top 25. Okay, well, he's not top 5. So to see him have the richest, contract in NBA history is kind of weird, for most people, even including us. And two, the biggest reason why is because this team hasn't won a championship yet, right? So you wonder if this is it. If this 3-year window, will they capture it? And I think the Celtics are doing their best to make that happen. And of course, giving Tatum his best teammate he's ever had in the NBA, it's got to be part of that. So I think it was a no-brainer. I think the money is going to be a talking point for the next 6-7 months, but then it'll be somebody else. It'll be a handful of other players making just as much or more. So I'm happy for Jaylen. I just want to see how he responds. Talking about defense in that press conference, I love that because I want Jaylen to be that guy who isn't afraid to defend the best player on the opposing team and excel at that. So you look at what he's done throughout his career, his numbers get better and better. In one statistical category or another. It was 3 last season, career highs. And I think that's good. I think that's someone who deserves a raise. I just think it's just weird because how much money it is. We're not used to seeing this much money being, handed out, but the Celtics did what they were supposed to. And I thought it was super cool for him to talk about, Black Wall Street and the wealth gap between the city of Boston and the rest of the town. I mean, that hit home for me. I grew up in Boston and went to school in the suburbs. I saw that right up close and personal, right? Being bussed out for 12 years, to the suburbs. So I thought that was pretty cool, man. As a local Boston guy, that was really cool to see Jaylen talking about that, right before signing that contract officially.
That was front and center, his investment in Boston.
It's pretty cool.
He's been in there all summer, and I know he's traveled a little bit too. People didn't love the Spain trip for some reason or another, but he's been there in Boston.
Maybe he wanted that option. Who knows?
I know he's just in Japan. They were going crazy for him in Japan.
Tatum's getting that option. What do you guys think?
Oh, no doubt.
Not to compare contracts right away, but
this is the first Supermax without a player option. So the Celtics have him for 6 years right now.
Yeah.
And the trade kicker is not going to impact much at all here. So this was a real win for the Celtics. I know the salary's through the roof and he's got to get better. And again, the dynamic on this team at the top needs to change in terms of making each other better, connecting, and just overall competency offensively. Like there's going to be a lot of improvements on that end this year, even though they were technically number 1 during the year. They gotta be more in control. And you know what? Again, Jimmy, we talk about it all the time. These deals are given out projecting that you're going to improve, and these deals are given out putting more on your shoulders because there's going to be less money to go to other guys around them. So they do have a year or 2 here where you're still going to have your Horfords and your Robs
and there's going to be a lot more pressure on Jaylen Brown now because you can't talk about Jaylen Brown without talking about that contract anymore.
Right.
And starting now
went from a bargain to possibly a player that some people are going to be just questioning if he's worth that money now. So he's
overpaid. Yeah.
And maybe he'll prove everybody wrong. And that I'm sure that every Celtics fan would love for that to happen. Right. I mean, we all would. So, but that's part of that.
Why is everyone talking about Drummond in the chat?
You want to be called a superstar and treated like a superstar. That comes with the price tag. So, again,
I keep looking like, did they sign Drummond?
You're Googling it right now.
Made the best sense for them at the time. So that's
definitely.
What else? What else we got, Bobby?
But this is definitely the fourth quarter of this tandem, right? Like, do either of you realistically see him finishing out this contract in Boston?
Oh, no. That's
the thing.
That's a long time from now, though.
I don't think there's any thought of that now.
We don't have to think about that. 6 years from now,
right?
Aliens are going to be running around.
Yeah.
Here, so like,
not yet.
No, but part of this deal just structurally was how can we have a little bit protection on both sides? The Celtics don't. There's no trade clause, of course, so Brown didn't get a ton of protection here. But maybe, toward the tail end of the deal, the trade kicker helps him out a little bit. And then, of course, the no-player option, that just creates a longer runway for if Brown asks out, Celtics can kind of hold back against that and be like, yeah, you're signed 4 more years, even 2 years from now. So, again, you're going to have to make a choice there. Porzingis taking a little bit of a pay cut helps to some degree, but at some point, this roster does get so expensive that you do have to start picking and choosing, I think, there in the middle of the roster, and White's in that category too. So I'm interested to see what deal he gets done. He's extension eligible in the fall, but we'll get to that when we get to it. I'm excited for this, Jimmy. World Cup.
What do you got?
They were on last night. We didn't get to see Pritchard, but word was
you need to be specific. There's a women's World Cup going on right now. So
FIBA World Cup. We're
okay.
Basketball show here.
Just making sure. We did talk Red Sox and we did talk Patriots.
So Pritchard's out there in Vegas, or he was. Training camp's over now. Playing with the select team, which was a couple guys rehabbing. It was a really good select team with Chet Holmgren and Cade Cunningham. And just like they have a couple of times in the past, I guess this has happened before in these camps, is that the select team came out and kicked the regular team's ass. And Pritchard looked good. The Athletic was right in that he was one of the stronger guys out there. I know Jaren Jackson has kind of been voted as the guy who's been the best looking of all the players in that camp. But Pritchard made the select team, which, was some real deal young guys, and played well out there. And this is a guy that Celtics are going to be leaning on for some amount of minutes this year. I think the hype train probably gets a little off the tracks here with Celtics fans sometimes with him, based on the production. But I do think he's a guy with a little bit more regular minutes, more ball time, and more clarity on his role, consistently playing night to night, that can improve on what I thought were pretty lackluster stats when he was thrown into games last year and even the year before that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bobby. I think he's ready to take on a more meaningful role and consistent minutes and be, have a role, not be someone that only plays when other guys are out, or play when they're down by 25. They need some sort of spark off the bench. So I think he's proven himself in that regard, especially when you consider Malcolm Brogdon and how the Celtics were really did a really good job of monitoring his minutes, even though at the end of the playoffs, he still ended up getting hurt. I think you see the Celtics do something similar in this year with someone like Pritchard to take over those minutes. And I think that will be great for this team. And I think that'll be, by December or January, give this team a sense of where Pritchard's at in his progression, and whether that's someone that they want to hold on to or try to trade mid-season. That's still a possibility, but I like the chances of him thriving in a role for the Celtics, coming off the bench, maybe the 8th man or whatever the case may be, but getting those consistent minutes where he's not stacking up DMPs and wondering, if he's going to be able to latch on to another team.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a mix going into this year. Fans who are really excited about him and want him having a major role in this team, or guys who are like, yeah, let's see. What's a major role? Every night, 15, 20
everyday minutes,
sprinkling in. I mean, the thing we really got to talk about is how healthy Brogdon's going to be, because if Brogdon needs to take some time off in camp, or there's like an easing in process with him, which we haven't really heard much about, all of a sudden Pritchard has a significant role in that backcourt. They'll play bigger, and I'm sure put Tatum at the 3 and Brown at the 2 more to stagger that, but he'll have to play some. There's no doubt about it this year.
Yeah, and I think this is like sort of like the shit or get off the pot season.
Does that concern you or does that excite you?
mean, more excite than nothing concerns me. I think that they have enough talent where they can get by without playing him major minutes, but it would be nice if he could take on a bigger role. I think that he's going to get more of an opportunity this year, certainly with Marcus Smart gone. But I don't know if I necessarily see 20 minutes a game regularly out of Pritchard. I mean, I think he's a situational guy. I do think that they should have went to him more last year in situations where they needed a boost off the bench or they needed some instant offense. He's a great shooter. We know that. We've seen him hit deep threes on numerous occasions. And it's tough when you're just sitting on the bench all game and then you get asked to go in like cold and you're trying to
I think 2022 is a good model. 71 games, 14 minutes a game. And they played a lot of double big that year too, but Brogdon wasn't there and he was the backup.
I think that's a lot more of a realistic expectation. Now, that doesn't mean that we're talking about averages here. There are going to be games where he does play 20, 25 minutes, and there are going to be games where he plays 10. It's going to be matchup based. This is a guy coming off the bench. He's not going to be your sixth or seventh guy off the bench, and he's going to come in, spell the guards when he can, and if he's playing well and if he's not a liability on the defensive end, he'll earn more playing time. And I think that's how he has to go into this. Obviously he goes out there and he plays hard pretty much every time you see him out there. I know he had a frustrating year and there was some talk of him wanting to be traded. Obviously he's had a conversation with Brad since the season ended. I imagine they're on the same page, at least on where Brad thinks he is, his role in this team is and what it could be and what he sees of himself. So again, that'll be one of the fun things to, I guess, watch for at the beginning of the year, summer league preseason, heading into the season, to see his increased role and how this Team USA experience plays a role in his growth as a player. It can only mean good things for him to be playing with players of that level right now.
I don't think you ever had to worry about him and work ethic and all that too. He's always on the court. He lives there.
He plays
so
balls out.
There'll be some fun competition in camp. I think like Hauser could fill minutes. We think Pritchard does. No, he's not a ball handler, but if they always have a ball handler out there and Brogdon's healthy, Hauser's bigger, probably a better shooter. I'd say. I think you can say that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So there'll be competition here, and some people like Banton. He's a little raw.
He can earn Mazzulla's trust. I that's one of the bigger question marks, if you ask me, in terms of like what he did to get himself out that rotation. Like I know we've been through it before, the second round matchup, and I understood he had to do that against Philly, but he never went back to Hauser. After going so.
No Hauser. They went Pritchard in Miami series, but he was just standing in the corner. There was no effort to integrate him at all.
Yeah.
So that's the thing this year. We've talked about too. Like you got to play your depth during the regular season. I wouldn't do that, Jimmy.
No, I wouldn't do it either, Kev.
Kev paid $2 to ask you that, guy. So you got to give him an answer. You wouldn't do that? No. Why not?
That must be his boy. DeLon Wright must be his boy.
Wright's an okay. He's one of those average ball handling backup guards. It's not
like Pritchard.
Yeah. Pritchard has more upside too.
Pritchard's never been an upside guy. Like he was a 4-year college guy, right? Came in ready to go. He was good that rookie year. He's still good going into year 4. And there's some ways he's gotten better, but none of us look at Pritchard and say this guy's going to be the starting point guard one day. Like he's a steady, reliable depth guy in this league.
He's a role player, but he lost his role.
And so is Wright.
So
that's on the other side.
It's a guy who played 2 games in the NBA Finals 2 years. It's hard to believe.
They're gonna, I think, try to keep him going forward. It's gonna have to be at the right price, and this is his contract year, of course. So, maybe you want to see him out there and see how it goes before you do that. But they'll have a window, I think, to get something done with him too.
Nothing has shown me that they're like gonna resign Pritchard. I haven't seen anything like that yet.
Yeah, I think you got to see it first, obviously, in camp and all that.
Of course.
Figure out what role he has going forward. And Brogdon too, like he's such a swing guy in this. Like, is he ready to go? Is he going to be the same
It's been
kind
very
of
quiet.
contributor last year?
That's what's going to happen a lot for teams, right? With this new CBA and just the new NBA, if you will, right? It's like guys either making like 20 to 40 million, or you're making 2 to 5. You know what I mean?
Brogdon at 20 again. We were all shocked.
But no, I mean, like I'm talking about Pritchard, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like if you don't cut it, you're getting dumped. You know what I mean? They're not going to give you a raise. They'd rather go ahead and get someone else for 2-3 million that could do the same thing that you've been doing. You know, so I think, you know, Pritchard is just one example of so many, you know, players like that throughout across the league. The teams are gonna have to make that decision. Like, do we want to lock this guy in, or can we get the same production elsewhere at a cheaper price?
Especially when you have as many picks as this team has now into the future too, and we haven't even mentioned Wallace, who could break through in this group here this year. I do want to get to Brogdon quick because I was curious what you guys thought of this from the Brown presser, but let's do something fun here with Jimmy, our good sponsors, AG1.
Oh, we'll do that at the end.
Jimmy forgot. All right.
No, we're gonna do it at the end.
So let me tease that at the end. I do want to shout him out here.
Oh, we can tease it now, but we're just gonna do it at the end.
Yeah.
I guess you just.
So AG1 sent us some cool gear. This is what I talk about all the time with them. Their gear is so cool, so fun. They sent us a whole box over, but this is the stuff you get with a subscription. And when we started using it, I think some of us got some containers to hold it in. And
I'm doing a live unboxing here, folks, at the end of the show.
You know,
don't tell them what's in it, dude. It's a live
unboxing,
Bobby.
No, this is stuff we got in the past. I'm not mentioning new stuff.
Balloons.
New stuff here.
Right,
a lot of gear over there when you subscribe. But the offer, you know it, you love it. If you haven't tried it yet, now's a great time, summertime, to readjust your diet, going into the fall, get all the vitamins, minerals, and
adaptogens
you need. 75 of those and more.
Probiotics.
drinkag1.com/garden. Link's the same. Website's new if you haven't checked it out, drinkag1.com, but the code's the same, garden.
I love
for a
AG1.
year's supply of vitamin D, 5 free travel packs. They've been with us for a long time now. We've all been using it for a long time. Just that scoop of water in the morning. It's so easy, tastes great, and the reviews are awesome.
I stack
Go over there, check those out. It's just that nutritional insurance is what they call it, making sure you get everything that you need for your body to function and keep you feeling good. drinkag1.com/Boston. We'll check out what they sent us at the end here. Let's do a couple lightning topics. So
worth the wait.
We can spend a few minutes on this one, but John didn't think this was much. I did. We were talking to Joe at the Brown presser, and I think Gary asked him, where's Brogdon at? He was almost traded. Now he's back. Now he's part of the team going forward. Like, are there hard feelings there? And
they're like, damn it, Gary, why you gotta bring this?
Joe's like, yeah, there's a healing process here. He's talking with the organization, and that's something you just have to go through. And John thought he was just, talking and, saying words and didn't mean a ton. But I thought using the word or the phrase healing process, and no, this wasn't about his arm. This was about hard feelings.
Mending the relationship.
Yeah, mending the relationship. Did you guys make much of that?
Yeah, they did come off a little empty because like you just tried to trade him a couple weeks ago. Like, come on, man. Like, obviously it's going to be awkward, and clearly you want him to be on the same page, but you can't act like you didn't just try to trade him and then turn around and say, "Oh no, he's a big part of the future." I'm like, well, yeah, now he is, but that wasn't ideal. That wasn't your.
And he'll be coming off the bench again this year, which wasn't easy for him last year.
Well, clearly because he talked about it, right? Yeah. But I think this will be a little bit different, though. I think you'll see him more at the end of the games, which used to drive us crazy, right? You would see him check out at like the 6-minute mark after going off for like, I don't know, say 20 points, and Mazzulla would forget about him, even if it went into overtime. He would stick with Marcus. So I don't.
It's a good point.
Obviously, that's not going to happen this time around, and you wonder about the usage rate, how that affects him by April, /May, but they have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Josue. I think it was the fact that they went away from him late in games, and that was also around the time where sometimes they would falter down the stretch, and it may have been because of Marcus Smart and being in the game. So, Bobby, to answer your question, relationship status, it's complicated. I think that's kind of where it is right now with these two.
Yeah.
I think that they can I still think that Brogdon is, he's a very mature player. He, by all accounts, is a really great individual, and I think that he'll be able to sort of put that aside, and again, he did sacrifice last year more than probably anybody did on that team. And he probably feels a little slighted that, doing so, he was thanked by, almost being traded out of town. And if not for, a little snafu. So listen, he can use that as motivation. I mean, this is the sixth man of the year.
Right.
So he should still feel extremely proud of the season he had. I wouldn't let that bother me. He knows that it's a business. He's a smart guy. He, I think, is actually pretty involved in the NBA outside of just games. So I'm sure that he's not naive to the ins and outs of the NBA business. So he'll get over it. I think the main thing is getting his health on track. He needs to be healthy. He needs to be physically ready to go. The emotional stuff, he'll be fine. Just want to make sure that this guy isn't hampered by anything going into the year. And then now all of a sudden,
I think that's the most underrated story of the offseason. Or under-discussed, I think. How healthy is he? Is he ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Will he need surgery out of nowhere in the fall? Will he need even a couple weeks to continue resting it in camp or into the season? Not a ton on that. And it really isn't right now. And you're not seeing him shooting. You're not seeing the workout videos. Not that he's that kind of guy anyway. Talking to him throughout the year, I think he's probably just chilling with his family. That's his big thing. So it's pretty low key.
Mm-hmm.
He's professional. So again, I don't think he's going to be causing a scene in there. So
no, he won't be screening out from subliminals, nothing like that.
But the real question is how committed they are to him, because I think they continue to try to look at different options there throughout the year. There was some Clippers talks that got reported. And maybe even the Clippers come back around.
Oh, he's not untouchable, Bobby. That's for sure. We know that. Since, I mean, if the right player,
the money was tough. That's the reason they got him for Neesmith and Tice and all the other guys. Is he was making $66 million over 3 years, and he's got $44 million left. Which in the tax and in this new second apron environment, it's a pretty hefty price tag for your sixth man, especially if you're going to bump White up to like almost $30 million. So.
With you, I think Brogdon's worth that much money. I mean, you were going to give Grant Williams $16 million.
It's a luxury.
But
it's a luxury item.
It's a luxury, but okay. But you're a team that needs a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. You need luxuries right now. You don't need him if you're the Houston Rockets or something. You need winning teams need a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. So to have him at $22 million. When Jaylen Brown or whoever
but do you think he did enough to help their issues last year? He scored great, but I think the passing and especially the defense left a lot to be desired.
I think he was the sixth man of the year for a reason. He came in right off the bench. He paced that second unit. He gave them scoring a lot of times when they needed it. We can talk about how Derek White came on, later on in the second half of the year and all that stuff. That's fine, but it was Malcolm Brogdon as their third guy on offense for a lot of this year. So recency bias is one thing, but to act like he wasn't, effective or he wasn't what they needed. Yeah, they had 3 really good guards last year. Now they have 2. So you need him more so this year than you did last year. So I wouldn't just, toss him to the side just like that and say, oh, he's a luxury.
No, and I said that all summer. If they dumped him, I would have been furious.
I was going to say, how many times throughout the first 3 months of the season where we were like, man, if this team had Brogdon, they win the championship, or, it would have been a much different series in 2022. So, I mean, I think that alone shows that obviously there's a lot of value there, but just the way he was used, towards the tail end of the games. And again, obviously the health thing was always in the back of everyone's mind. So it was all good until the conference finals that he still got hurt, So I think that's when you hear Celtics fans being like, okay, he's making $20 million. You can match that in a deal somewhere. Get him out of here. I think it had less to do with his production. I just think it was more out of frustration because of his health and because, what's going on. And the Celtics fans want to see that the Celtics can get at least one more player since they're switching things up the way they did throughout this offseason.
He was kind of in a let him cook role too, and I wonder if that'll be adjusted at all, especially now that Smart's gone toward more facilitating and ball handling, that kind of stuff. Rapid fire before we get out of here. I reported, and Stein put out there as well, that the door is still open for Blake Griffin.
Okay. Okay, Bobby. Breaking news.
Yeah, right.
Breaking news, Bobby. Yeah, I say do it.
This is a guy.
He's your 15th guy.
Again, you guys knew my thought on this. I called him one of the biggest pleasant surprises joining this team that I can remember, because I thought he was going to give them absolutely nothing. And he ended up becoming one of the more fun parts of the team last year and gave them some nice off-day production when Horford was out. He was a starter in those games, and they won pretty much all of those games with him playing really well. And honestly, they probably should have given him a shot in the playoffs. I know you said that, Josue. You didn't really see him outside of that weird game where he came in, looked like they were going to win the Hawks series at home, and then they blew it. So that was really his only playoff.
Made no damn sense, man.
But listen, your front court's a little bit more full.
I hope Sam Cassell, Charles Lee, Joe Mazzulla, they just all sit down and Cassell and Lee can just take turns of saying, like, this is what you did wrong. Like, because they were watching, especially Cassell. He was in the damn
He was on the opposite side.
Yeah, he was on the opposite side. Like, I would love, like, they don't have to tell us, but I hope at some point that happens, like, throughout the season.
Well, it's interesting. You're hearing Joe talk more about defense now, too. Listen, Blake was a good guy to have in the room. The tricky part is now, and I think there's some family considerations here too, distance from family, but is he going to have a role at all on this team? Because you have an extra center now, of course. Horford's maybe coming off the bench, and he's kind of that backup center. Luke's still in the fold here, of course. I'm going to mention him.
There you go. We got it. Everybody drink.
He's a guy who's going to play. Are there minutes? Is there even a need for Blake on this team?
Who's going to play?
I think so. When you think about Al getting older and what he was doing last year with the spot starts, I think you see a little bit more of that if he does come back. I think he'd be a bit more rejuvenated. I don't know if that means he's going to be a better player, but I mean, having to sit throughout pretty much the entire postseason, I think you'll see that reflection in the beginning of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a bit more spry and ready to go, and what he is in the locker room, the whole Bus One boys, all that stuff. I think that's great. I'd love to see Blake come back for sure. And I think that there is a role for him when you think about how thin the front court gets after the first two guys in that depth chart.
They could use a fifth guy there, I'd say. And he can play some four, too. He shoots.
Look, I know people got excited watching Jordan Walsh, but let's pump the brakes a bit, right? Does he have a chance to get some minutes in there? Sure, but he's not going to lock down a role.
Easy, Josue.
He's not going to lock down a role for you.
We're talking about
he's not getting that number 27 jersey.
We're talking about first team all defense.
Shooting 40% or whatever, 40+% from behind the arc in summer league. That doesn't translate to the NBA. Come on, guys.
I'm a Blake guy too. I don't even really care so much about what need he fills as the 15th guy on the roster, if that's what he is. It's team dynamic stuff. It's off the court stuff. It's team building. He's got a good, I think he's got a good what do you want to call it? A good whatever. He's friends with the guys. Rapport. Thank you, Bob. He's good at, listen, he's a fun guy to be around. I think he makes the locker room more enjoyable, makes the bus more enjoyable, road trips. He's an experienced veteran. He can, he can offer tips and whatever he needs to or wants to some of these younger guys. And they all like him. Does anyone not like Blake Griffin? I've never heard, anyone on their team not like Blake Griffin? No. So I think that'd be a good addition to have. I mean, what are they going to do with that roster spot anyways? Let's be real. If we're diving deep into the 15th guy during these games, then there's bigger issues with
someone teams, said Blake is our Haslam. Come on, he's not OG yet.
Jeez. Other names you guys have though? So they opened up a roster spot. I'm still curious.
I think he's still closer to 30 than he is to 40, right? What is he, 34? Come on, guys.
Yeah. Be nice.
He's on the back end physically.
Be nice to 34-year-olds.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Sure. But Bobby, I mean, like our teams aren't banging down the door to sign this guy, so I don't really think he's going to have much of a. If he wants to play on a team, he's not going to be like, well, I don't know if my role here is as good as it is over here. I mean, This is a team that can win a championship first and foremost. That's what these guys care about.
To believe that.
Can they jump on a team? Can they jump on a team and win a ring? That's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, and it took him till October last year. I'm sure he'll take a similar amount of time this time around. So we'll see what Blake decides. The door is open, as we said there. Is there any free agents out there?
You got that. Wait, hold on, Michael. We're talking about this upcoming season, all right? Don't come after me in 2025 being like, well, he's a starter now. I'm talking about this year, okay? Jordan Walsh, not quite yet.
Are there any free agents out there? They got an open roster spot right now, so if it's not Blake,
don't ask me that.
Anyone intrigue you?
Talk right now, Bob.
TJ Warren.
No.
I'll down this hill.
Jimmy's always want Cousins. The chat wants Drummond. It's that time of year. Who's
get there? A backup wing. TJ Warren, Terrence Ross. One of these guys that just goes in there and just gives you offense.
There's a lot of guys still.
TJ Warren is
available. TJ Warren's still available. That's my number one guy.
Oh hell yeah! I would take him in a heartbeat. From my Pacers days.
If he's terrible, then just bench him.
I'm a huge TJ Warren guy.
I'm still excited about the Pacers. I think they're gonna be pretty good this year.
TJ Warren will give you that. You think you lost some toughness with Marcus Smart? TJ Warren will give you that toughness back very quickly.
Last one I got for you guys. This is for you, Nick. Bleacher Report. Nick's very upset. They left.
Oh man, rightfully so. Oh, I know what you're about to say.
You got the list.
They left Brown and Tatum.
Who did
off the top 10 list on their top 5 list of duos in the NBA.
Top 5 duos. Are you pulling it up?
They made honorable mention. Don't worry. Yeah, want me to put it on the screen? John doesn't usually like this, but I love doing it. Ranking the NBA's top superstar duos. Here you go. You seeing this?
Oh, you're gonna put no, we're not.
There you go.
You're gonna put the actual article up. Oh wow. Okay.
So here we go. We'll go from the top to the bottom here. Number 1 duo.
Oh, dude,
according to Bleacher Report's article here, Durant and Booker.
So I don't really have a huge problem with this other than the fact that there's just a small sample size. But are those two unbelievably talented basketball players? Yeah, they are. And Durant's still playing. I know that Durant's on the quote unquote back end of his career, but he's still playing like one of the best players in the NBA. And we know Booker is flirting around with that MVP, top 5 Tatum level type performances. So I don't have a huge problem.
It's about how you feel about Booker versus Tatum, I think.
And I feel like he's been playing better. He played better when Durant came along, man. It's just like he's just motivated.
He was incredible in the playoffs.
Yeah, man.
As far as postseason performances last year, Booker was better than Tatum.
Fair.
Yeah. Next.
Number 2, I believe, was Giannis and Holiday. He's giving Holiday a lot of credit as the number 2 there.
Well, he is number 2 now, so I think that's exactly right.
Great defender.
I mean,
a lot of this is Giannis, right?
Right. A lot of it's Giannis. I don't know if Giannis makes them the second best, but certainly you can't argue that they're.
I don't know how you put him over the number 3. So these guys should be number 1. Yeah. Come on, champions, unstoppable the whole way through. No one touched them.
I'm with you. I mean, I love obviously Jokic is the MVP. Or I'm sorry, he should have been the MVP, but it wasn't Embiid. He was the Finals MVP, and then Murray balled out, dude, and that's after the serious injuries that he's had in his career. This dude's unbelievable. They have a killer mentality. They play awesome.
These two
together.
right now are miles ahead of Brown and Tatum.
When I think of a duo, I think of these two guys because they share a brain out there in the basketball court. You know what I mean? The position makes sense. They know where each other's are going to be. They make each other better. This is my number 1 duo right now. So yeah, Durant and Booker, they're super talented in and of themselves. You got to wait and see how they make each other better. But we know Jokic and Murray make each other so good.
Should all these guys be above Tatum and Brown so far, Josue? Giannis, KD,
so
Booker,
far.
Jokic, Murray.
So far.
All right, number 4, LeBron and Davis.
I think, this one doesn't belong in the top 5. Now, 5 years ago, sure. LeBron, everyone knows I'm a LeBron guy. I'm not an AD guy.
Who would have won that finals if it was Celtics Lakers?
But I am a LeBron guy. And even I can say that they probably don't belong on this list anymore. I know that they just re-signed or extended Anthony Davis. But LeBron is, LeBron's still balling out. Don't get me wrong. I don't put them at number 4 as duos. I think Tatum and Brown,
too injury prone,
are probably
that too. But
I think you got to assume
just the overall production though. After seeing what Tatum and Brown did, the 2 best scoring duo in the NBA, and what the Celtics did the year prior, getting to the NBA Finals, I think they've reached that point where you can say that they're a better duo than these guys. I think honestly, this is where I would put Tatum and Brown. But okay, you don't want to put them at 4. That's fine, but they got to be at number 5.
I think durability is a factor.
This list is insane.
If you're assuming health, though, I mean, LeBron's still that guy, even at this age, and defensive regression.
That's why, Bobby. That's That's why they're up as far as they are.
I think that's neck and neck, honestly.
That team.
You know, when these two guys are
it's debatable.
Davis,
it's definitely debatable.
I just still have so much respect for Davis, and he's won a championship. Remember, these two guys have won a championship. It was a couple of years ago, but
that was years ago. Yeah, I was gonna say that was years ago.
Yeah, I don't really have the same amount of respect for Davis that you do, Bobby. I think he doesn't do it for me. LeBron, obviously, I have the utmost respect for on the court.
And he is advanced. I give Brown and Tatum the edge on durability. I do think that matters because you just don't know whether these guys are going to get to the finish line. Number 5.
I just think it's like you're at that age. They're at that age now.
This is ridiculous.
This is when I was like, okay, you lost all credibility with this list when you put these guys there. Like,
I mean, these guys struggled. That was the story of the late seasons, that these two struggled to play together.
How?
They're just going based on talent, individual talent
or 2K ratings.
I think Brown's better than Kyrie at this point. You know, you could debate Luka Tatum, but I think Tatum's had the durability, defense, you know, playoff runs and consistency and stuff like that too. Luka's got some.
Luka's a better scorer.
Better passer.
Jaylen has made a significant leap when you compare.
These guys are not top 5 duo.
No.
Luka and Kyrie, they might not even last the season together.
So we're saying.
So I'm not going to give them.
We're saying 4th at the lowest for Brown and Tatum, who did make honorable mention. They were nice enough to do that.
Oh, how sweet!
Tatum and Brown made honorable mention with Embiid and Harden, and I think it was Kawhi and Paul.
They took an analytic approach here. Expected plus minus for Brown, 46 in the NBA, and their net rating together plus 5.2, which was lower than their overall net rating. But again, we've talked about this. Still leadership strides to be made. Still strides to be made in terms of playing together and consistency. So
you could say all that about Kyrie and Luka too.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying they should be off the list. I'm saying
sure.
For a little while there, we were saying this might be the top duo in the league, and I think all of us sit here and agree right now that they're not. And so they're gonna have to take some steps to get back to that status.
Well, what we did say, Bobby, is that they were the top young duo, which I don't know how you wanna quantify young, and they're not really. I guess they're not really that young anymore in basketball terms. Anyways, they've been in the league for a while, but. For a while, it was Tatum and Brown, or who was it? Zion and Ingram. We were saying, who would you rather have? And then that was Zion discovered cheeseburgers and Mountain Dew, and that put that debate to rest.
All right.
And amongst other things.
All right, from cheeseburgers to AG1, Jimmy.
To the opposite of cheeseburgers.
He's been distracted.
In fact, if Zion's watching, he could probably learn a thing or two about having all your greens.
This cannot hurt Zion if he wants to try.
This cannot hurt Zion at all. Athletic Greens. So this is the unbox. Look at this nice box. Thank you. AG1. Thank you, AG1, for mailing this to me. Opening it up here. People love a good unboxing. If you don't want to, the show's over, folks. So
let's do this.
If you want to hang around for the unboxing, this is what it's all about here. So, love a good box. Come on, Josue.
Just leave it. You laughing made it worse. You laughing made it way worse.
We got a cool a little measuring cup, so I can mix my AG1 in here, toss it in, shake it all up, measure. You can see right here. You can't see the numbers, but it's got all the way up to 16 ounces. You don't need 16 ounces of water for AG1, but you can take it with that much water if you'd like. What else we got here? This is cool. Dude, little okay, this is kind of
swag.
This is some swag. AG1. I'll rock this sweatshirt. Right now. Let's see if it fits.
Good sweatshirt or long sleeve. My shirt.
I love that little. Yeah, it's almost like a crew neck kind of.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I got the AG1 crew neck. Hold on.
Jimmy looks great. Look at this.
Damn, bro. Okay.
Yeah, I need to get you in that AG1 commercials.
Okay, AG1. I see. I'm wearing this Friday night. I might have to go on a date now. Commercials. We got here. Oh, we got a cool tote bag. Look at this tote. Carry all my gear in here. This is cool. You can, you know what?
You'll definitely see me in that shirt on the air. There's no doubt.
Or you'll see me in that. Bobby, let me know when you wear yours. I'll wear mine and we'll say who wore it better.
All right.
If you go to the supermarket these days, they charge you for bags. They
They
charge
do.
you for bags now, so you got to bring your own. So I might
One of those
bring this
nice ones.
AG1 bag. Let all the girls know that I'm healthy when I'm walking up and down the aisles.
You could rock that Whole Foods.
With the
Definitely.
shirt on.
I'm gonna be at Whole Foods tomorrow, looking like an AG1 model.
Hey, have you guys tried AG1 yet? Just think
Oh
the random
wow! I got myself a glass straw.
Glass straw for the
glass bottle here.
Be careful, don't drop it.
Yeah, glass. Me and glass don't always get along.
Don't
And then
call it
last,
Jaylen.
I think there's one last thing here.
Chemistry set.
Unbelievable box. Let's see what else we got here. Oh wow!
This
Okay.
is interesting.
Okay, this is definitely interesting. Get it open. It's a lightsaber. No. It is a frother. It's a frother.
Wow.
Not only is it a frother.
It's electric.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, there you go.
This thing is spinning, baby. Oh, it's got multiple speeds too. Wow. Okay.
Perfect for 2
Okay.
scoops.
Little frother for the AG1, or if you
I
have
don't think you're supposed to put that on the straw, but
you have a home bar, you get yourself a little tool for that. So that's it. Thank you, AG1. Some good gifts here. And
yeah, and again,
remind
if you want
everybody.
to head over there,
Yeah.
you'll get all this kind of stuff with a subscription. And of course, they are
Well,
just
we don't know that, but
throwing in vitamin D, year supply, 5 free travel packs. John likes to say lifetime supply, but it's a year
lifetime
supply.
supply.
it's a year
Lucky
supply.
life.
It's which is a
AG1.
lot. Which is a lot. And you can probably stretch it out even more. And guys, I'm not just saying it. I take AG1 every day. I have the travel packs. I have the big pouch every morning. Stack it. You guys already know what I stack it with. Beef organs. A lot of other stuff too. So sunlight, cold showers, AG1, beef organs, the whole 9 yards every morning. And now I can mix my AG1 with this little guy.
Oh, there you go. That's full speed.
This is full speed. Yeah, that's getting mixed. Yeah, I'll say that'll do it. Yeah, Josue, that'll do it.
I love it. Thanks to AG1. And of course, check them out. Drink
Shout out to Jimmy
AG1.com/garden.
for the mini paid program.
Yeah, they're going to love that. We'll be back later in the week. Try to get some guests to talk about the team, give some national perspective, and then World Cup a couple weeks away. We'll watch Porzingis with Latvia. He'll be playing for them, the only Celtic in the tournament. USA's got a couple scrimmages next week, so
don't get hurt.
A little bit of basketball. It's starting to sneak up on us, but of course, football first and foremost. Like we said earlier in the show, go head over to fanduel.com/Boston. Go get your bonus bets. Every time your Super Bowl winner, if you're betting their future, wins, you're going to get bonus bets from fanduel.com/Boston. Great offer right now. Head over there and check that out. Go get it. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy, Josue.
Yeah, fellas, always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your hopefully we get some sun. Oh my God, I've never seen so much rain.
I got another game tomorrow, Jimmy. Get ready for a box score.
Oh God, just when I thought it never rained any harder than it possibly could.
Yeah, that shit went viral. You had Evan Turner talking about that shit. I forgot about that.
I mean,
he goes, this box score is wild.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, Bobby, please let me tweet this out. This is the most outrageous box score I've ever laid.
Yeah, you started it. That's right.
Bobby, how's the team doing?
We're great. Our guy Bellman's averaging like 37.
Oh my God, Bellman! Yeah, he was unreal.
I didn't play as much last week. We had more guys there, so I didn't play great. Wasn't worth posting the box score, but hopefully I'll get more minutes this week and be able.
Who's in charge of the minutes? Just put yourself in. You can get.
Yeah, we were cooking.
Don't think about the box score, man. I think you're thinking about it. Just go out there and play, man.
Do you think it has anything to do with like 22 shots or whatever it was?
Yeah, maybe they weren't feeling that. I don't know. But again, I played well. I got so much crap.
And then they have to see everyone talk about it on Twitter. They're like,
I got so much crap. I wasn't the only guy who shot poorly percentage-wise, and I had 3 blocks and 8 rebounds. It was a rock-solid performance.
That's not rock solid.
3 blocks, 8 rebounds,
in a rec league,
points,
26 shots. Not a single 3-pointer? Is that
I'm
efficient?
still
I don't know,
skeptical
Jimmy. I
over
think
16
if you would have put up a lot out of box
shots.
scores, it might be worse. That'd be a
You're
different
not a
ratio.
3-point shooter, bro? You don't step out there?
I wouldn't feel great about it in a game. I gotta play inside. I'm one of the taller guys.
That is true, but you gotta be that stretch big. It's the 2023, man.
Once I feel good about it, maybe I'll put up one next game, Jimmy.
What are you scared of?
I'm
It's
open.
freaking men's league.
Hey, we're 3-1, I think. So here we go. Tomorrow we're back out there. Maybe we'll have Amit come film one of the games too for the YouTube channel.
Oh, that'll be a treat.
Amit's like, fuck that.
Amit's like, yeah, you don't pay me enough to go to that.
All right, guys. We'll see you later in the week for another edition, and the whole crew will be back next week if there's some news. And stay tuned to Celtics All Access. Subscribe over there in CLNS Media. Pat's Thursday. Go get the Patriots channel, Patriots Press Pass. Taylor and them are killing it down there, and we'll talk to you soon.